Hi, this is Joe Shannon. I'm a lawyer, a husband, a father of 6 kids, and I also host a podcast called Opening Statement with Joe Shannon. Please consider listening to our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple, and any other folks that host podcasts. Just Google Joe Shannon and podcast, and you'll find it. I hope you enjoyed the show. So today I'm speaking with Mike Slowik. Mike's been a friend of mine for, about 30 years. And just a quality individual, but his story is so amazing, starting with as a 15-year-old, starting these bicycle trips, where he went when he was 20 years old. When he just got out of community college, he rode his bike from Chicago to Portland, Oregon, and in a month to get ready for school. I didn't even not know that story before recently, and now he tells that story. It's a great story. But also, I wanted to talk to him about how he's handled the pandemic, and you will be very impressed with how this great guy has handled the pandemic. We talk about a number of things: personal life. We talk about ageism in hiring. We talk about landing that perfect job and how to do that. And we talk about different ideas of how to handle stress. I hope you'll enjoy the show. And I'll see you down the bend. Hey, I'm very excited today to interview one of the role models in my life, a really great guy, Mike Slowik. Let me tell you why. So I met Mike over 20 years ago. We went to the same University of Portland in Portland, Oregon. Well, yeah, we're in Chicago. So how did that happen? Well, Mike grew up around here. I got married to a gal who convinced me that Chicago was halfway between Notre Dame and Washington State. She's a really good lawyer. And so I ended up here. And so I've been here for since 1992. So 21 plus 9 is 31 years. Well, that's a long time. Anyway, so I met Mike after I got here. And one of the things that I really like about Mike is his attitude about how he handles things. And so I wanted to touch base with him. We went through a pandemic this last year. It's almost a year from today that things started closing and things started slowing down. The economy, everything started slowing down. And so I wanted to touch base with Mike about how he reacted to that. And I think it'd be good for our listeners to listen to this as well. So, Mike, welcome to the show.
Joe, pleasure to be here.
So, Mike, before we get going, why don't you just tell us a little bit about your upbringing, where you're from, how you ended up where you're at today?
It's a pretty wild story. How much time do we have? No. I am actually the 9th of 12 kids. So I grew up in countryside Illinois. We had 4, maybe 5 bedrooms. So it got me used to being able to deal with controlled chaos, and I'm in IT, so it works out great, as well as being working independent, because mommy and daddy weren't there to do anything for you. So you had to grow up early and fast. I learned to eat fast, too, because if you're eating fast, when you got done what was on your plate, what was on the other person's plate was fair game. And I've got 6 brothers, and most of them play hockey. So yeah, my dad asked me, "Why are you so damn competitive?" Dad, seriously. So grew up here in the Chicago area. I went out to school in Oregon because it was as far away from mom and dad as I could get before I hit water. Did a lot of bicycling. So I bicycled through all 50 states, including from Chicago up to Portland, and ended up back here in Chicago because I love the winters, right? The family's here and so forth. And settled down, met a great woman, and 2 kids, and 31 years later, here we are.
So you bicycled from Chicago to Oregon?
Yes, I had never been to Oregon before, never been to University of Portland. You talk about taking a risk, sir. And by the way, the boys in our family had to pay for not only their own college, but their own high school. So I had taken all my precious dollars and invested in Portland before I even went there jumped on my bicycle, and a month later I showed up there, and obviously, the Lord was with me, and it worked out great.
Hold on a second. You rode your bicycle to college from Chicago?
That's correct.
So how did that all work? This may be a whole podcast in its own here. You're 18 years old. Where'd you go to high school, by the way?
Well, I went to LT. In between there, I went to college at DuPage for 2 years.
Okay, so you went to LT. All right, so you're 20 years old, whatever, 20, 21 years old, and then you tell your parents, hey, listen, I don't need to fly out there. You don't need to ride. I'm gonna ride my bike out there.
Correct. I mean, I had to pay for everything myself. I couldn't afford a car, or anything like that, and it was a lot cheaper to just ride your bicycle. So I jumped on my bike and headed west, and go west, young man, and there I was.
How long did it take you to get there?
It took me about 30 days. I showed up on the Friday of Labor Day weekend. The dorms weren't going to open until Monday, and it was kind of funny because I walked into the West Hall to register, and the assistant dean Mrs. Rose, she took one look at me and she just shook her head and she goes, "Oh my God." I hadn't taken a shower in a week, and I had a beard. I was scraggly. She goes, "Oh no." But she could have been nicer. She got me all registered, got me all set to go. And she goes, "I'm sorry, the dorms aren't open. I can't let you in." That's fine. I just kept going, rode out to Cannon Beach, jumped in the ocean, took a shower, and life was good again.
So you then rode to Cannon Beach after that?
Yes.
That's a good 90 miles, right?
Yeah, I mean, I stayed. I got most of the way there, and then I can't, like the whole time I camped out on the side of the road. I just throw my tent out there, and then I got there in the morning. Oh yeah.
So you had a tent on your back, or what? Tell me the whole. Back then, that must have been early 80s, right?
1979.
So in 79, bicycles sucked back then. I mean, they were not good.
No, and that by the way, that was not my first bike trip by any stretch of the imagination. When I just first graduated from high school, rode from Chicago to Maine down to Delaware and back. And then when I was 17, my first long trip was from Denver back to Chicago. Took a train out there and then rode back with my buddy Russell. So yeah. And then to kind of finish the story, my whole goal was to ride my bicycle through all 50 states before I turned 30, and I missed it by 4 months. But yeah.
So then, did you break down at all on the way there?
Of course.
So how does that work out?
You go with the flow, baby. Kind of the whole topic of our conversation today is you got to be optimistic. You got to have that. Look, I'm going to get through there no matter what. Like, for example, on the way to Oregon, if you're familiar with Idaho at all, of course, you spent time in Washington State, so I don't know if you went east over to Montana and Idaho. There's a little pass called Lost Trail Pass. It's called so because Lewis and Clark got lost trying to go up this darn thing. Bitterroot Mountains are nasty. So anyway, so I'm going up this hill, and it's getting late on this beautiful Saturday evening. Little kitty cat came out of the woods, a mountain lion, and he was like between me and I don't know, like 10 yards away. And he turned around, looked at me, and I looked at him. I don't know who was more scared, me or the cat, but I'm like, dude, I'm going that way to Oregon, and I'm going right through your butt, and yeah.
So you saw a mountain lion, and you kept going?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was kind of funny because the deal was with my parents, they let me go and do these kind of trips. The deal was every Saturday night, you had to call home. Okay, and you got to keep in mind, this is 40 long. Actually, my first trip was in 74, so long before cell phones or anything like that. We had something called payphones. Had to call, collect, and those calls were quick. Okay, where you at now? Okay, so I'm about 700-800 miles down the road. Okay, and I told my dad about the mountain lion. He goes, yeah. But by the way, when you get to this thing called the gorge, you're gonna run into a little bit of a wind. So if you've ever known the Columbia Gorge, when you get there, they got that strong wind coming out, and after 2,000, 3,000 miles, I went, oh. Oof. But anyways.
Yeah, so I grew up in Yakima, Washington, which is just east of Seattle, about 2.5 hours. And then when my grandparents lived in Portland, Oregon, and what's one of the reasons why I ended up at Portland is I had some family down there. But we would go through the Columbia Gorge on our way there. We'd go through Goldendale and down into the gorge. and then go along the Oregon side. And there's probably nowhere more beautiful in the world than the Columbia River Gorge. It's nobody builds on it. I think it's preserved, and it's, the Columbia River separates Oregon and Washington. That's where it is. But there is a wind. I mean, there's a reason why it's the windsurfer capital of the world now. I don't know if was there windsurfers back then?
Yeah, they just, like I said, late 70s. But by the way, when I finally got out to Oregon, and of course, Eastern Washington, Eastern Oregon, it's hotter than heck. 2/3 of Oregon was desert. I did not know that. And I get there, and I'm seeing all these beautiful brochures, how green, and it's brown. It's 100 degrees. It's hotter than hell. And I'm like, have I been sold a bill of goods, or what's going on? So I did what anybody did. I pulled into a tavern to get a beverage or two. Keep in mind, back then, the drinking age in Illinois was 19 for beer and wine. And he looked at me and he goes, "Can I see an ID?" And I just, give me the flipping beer, pal. And they did. Because I didn't know Oregon was 21. I don't know. I needed a beer at that point.
Were you 21?
No, I was 20. I never got carded the whole time I was in Oregon because I had a beard. Even Mount Angel Oktoberfest, any of the other bars or any of that other stuff. Nope, never got carded. I never had a false ID or anything like that. They're not going to serve me. Okay. So, anyways.
Wow, I cannot imagine that going down nowadays. Somebody just getting on a bike and going from Chicago to Portland. Listen, I got 6 kids. You got 2, right?
Yes.
And I got to admit, I think I worry about them too much. You know what I mean? And they got cell phones. They're tethered to the cell phone. It's kind of hard for me to imagine. I guess I was just kind of the same way. I'm number 9 of 10. You got me beat by 2, but I guess I did go on some trips by myself, but never like that. That's a great story. So, I mean, weren't you cold at nighttime?
Oh, well, a cold. I think the warmest I ever got was bicycling across the Mojave Desert in August. I do not recommend that. All right, because when I was out on the West Coast, after I left Oregon and went down to California for a year to meet one of my brothers. He had moved out when I was young, so I never got to know him. So I spent about a year with him, and then I bicycled back. So yeah, it was like 100 and I don't know, 7 or 8 in the shade there. And then the coldest, I think, there are times up in the mountains, up to Alaska, you get well below freezing. So yeah, you again, you got to learn to be adaptable and flexible and so forth.
So and I bet you learn how to fix a bike too.
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah. And again, Joe, you got to be optimistic. You've got to be resilient. You've got to be, you got to go with the flow. You got to learn how to get along with people, because when you're on a bicycle, you're extremely vulnerable. And I got to admit, I met Americans and people all over, from coast to coast, and people could not be nicer, helping me, telling me, no, don't go that way, go this way. And a lot of people would put me up for the night, unsolicited. No, you're not going anywhere. Well, a quick story. When I finally got up to the Alaskan border, this is obviously 1989. There was one guard, okay, and I noticed his license plate was Alaska Cubs. And I go, oh yeah, you must be in the Bears and stuff. But he goes, no. My name is Patrick. I'm from this town called Evanston, Illinois. I'm a Chicago Cubs fan. I go, oh my God, I can't get away from you people here. But anyways, and he goes, your riding day is done because you're staying with me. I've got this French couple, they need some help fixing the bike or whatever. Put me up in his house, fed me the whole night. I mean, and I can rinse and repeat that story throughout the country. So it gives me a lot of optimism about this country. And looking back at last year with all the crazy stuff going on, that's not the kind of people I know. Even to this day, I mean, and I think I shared with you a lot of the walking I've been doing recently. People are just awesome. I don't know the news, what's going on there, but those aren't the people I know as Americans.
Yeah, I often tell my kids and a lot of my friends, I said, I wish that you saw the world through my mother's eyes. So my mother, Joanne, was or is a saint in my book. She's like a Saint Monica, because I was kind of a Augustine type character for a long time, and still am a little bit, vain, that type of thing. Anyway, early Augustine, not late Augustine. I just want to make sure that I'm early. The other guy he's untouchable. Anyway, so she saw when she would meet people, she would find the good in everybody, just like, and you know, for some people, it's a hard search. You know what I mean? It's like, you know, but she'd find that speck or whatever, and so that's good to hear that people think like that. That they instantly help people out and that type of thing. I like that. I really like that a lot. So listen, I'm sorry. I got fascinated with that story. I'm one day we're going to talk, just do that together, that story. Cause I love it. Cause I just can't imagine like tires blowing off and you need a new tire and you're in the middle of the desert or you're middle of the mountains. What are you going to do? Or you get blown over by a semi,
Yeah.
all these things. I mean, to me, it's like, what really would freak me out is like the gear thing. All the gears messed up, and you needed to get the bike repaired. I mean, none of that happened, huh?
Oh, it happened all the time. The worst part was on the Alaskan highway. I was 700 miles to the next bike shop in Whitehorse up there, population 10,000, a metropolis, and I had one last leaky inner tube. I had blown 3 tires in one day, and I'm like, okay, you know what that's called, Joe? That's called faith. And yeah. By the way, my first bike trip, I was 15 years old. So yeah.
15?
Yes, 15 years old. First overnight bike trip.
And it was a solo?
No, I had my buddy Marty with me. We rode from LaGrange out to DeKalb and back.
Okay.
Spent overnight in Douglas Hall at Northern Illinois and drank Tennessee moonshine. Another story sometime.
All right, well, good. Well, listen, now, so one of the things, now you listeners are understanding why this guy is one of my role models. I did not even know that story because he never told me, but now I'm pissed because he didn't told me that story because I could have prepared a little bit for it. But anyway, I do want to talk about, the last year. So, some of you may know from the podcast, I've done about 65 podcasts in the last year, and it's been great to meet all these great people and hear their stories about what their unbelievable lives and those types of things. You probably know, if you've listened to this, that we as a law firm and is we basically made a decision that we weren't going to lay anybody off and that we were going to double down on our work ethic. And we're going to make it through. We didn't know how long this was going to last. So we're doing this podcast in early March, and the vaccination is being spread out. More and more people are getting it, and it seems like it's opening up a little bit. But you know what? I'm making the decisions not to make any assumptions that things are going to happen smoothly. Anyway, I want to hear your story, Mike, about how you handled all of this. So let's go back. It's March of 2020. What are you doing?
Getting through 9 days of hell. In my story, Joe, you can rinse and repeat it, not just here in the U.S., but across the world. And everybody, and they probably should document this, not just for yourself, when you are sitting around and you're 90 years old and you want to relive some of those days, but for future generations. So maybe we can call this lessons of the pandemic, because if you recall, when my grandparents were in their late 20s was 1918. And if you ever get a chance, American Experience did a great story or a great session, a program 20 years ago on the pandemic of 1918. One of the things that came out of that, when it was done, baby, they forgot all about it and put it aside. Ooh, gee, I wish we had some of those lessons, because I think we could have saved ourselves a lot of the grief. So anyways, when bad things happen, they happen, I don't know, for a reason or whatever. I'm not going to go there, but take those lessons and learn from them and save them for future generations. So I guess with my story, it started March 9th at 3:30 in the afternoon that Monday. We had to say goodbye to our dog after 14 years. Boy, that was fun. March 11th, I was at the Hawks game, last public sporting event here in Chicago. And then second period, NBA announced they were shutting down, and boy, that party ended. So that was the last time I was in any kind of big social gathering here in Chicago. Thursday, March 12th, last time in the office, seeing the boss and a lot of colleagues. Also, last time helping out inside at the local food pantry, Sunday, March 19th or 15th, last time at going to church in person with my wife, because they shut down. March 16th, last time swimming and seeing people I've known for, been with for 30, 35 years. And then finally ended up on March 18th at 7:35 in the morning out of the blue. Mike, we got to let you go. Boom, 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 boom. And so at that point, you're just like, whoa, okay, what's going on here? So unless you have a strong base, a strong resilience, a tough skin, look out. You're gonna melt. But you got to have faith in yourself, faith in, of course, in God, in your family, and your friends, and you get through this. Is it going to be fun? No, nobody asked for this. But um, this is where the road meets the rubber, and you find out who your true friends are, and everybody pulls together. It was scary. I mean, we didn't know what was going on with this thing. The virus, where's that? That's in China. That's somewhere else. But when that woman came back from visiting her father and she got sick and died, and her husband got sick and died, and they were right here, in Chinatown in Chicago, we'd go, oh. And then all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. And when that NBA player was diagnosed positive, we all took uh-oh. And then, and then everybody knows what happened in them, with their story.
So March was 18th, your job ended?
Yes. Me and the tens of millions of other people across the country, or at least here in the States. Yep.
Right. So tell me a bit about your business. Who were you working for at the time?
I was working for a big technology company out of Texas. And they ultimately did a workforce reduction. So I just got caught up with, they did about, I don't know, 10% of the population or their employees. So ultimately there were 10 to 15,000 people globally that got let go. And it was kind of interesting. I did to talk to them. I said, there's a pandemic going on. They go, yeah. So it was like being tossed over, overboard during rough seas. But okay, you better learn how to swim pretty quick.
So you and 10,000 of your friends were told, hey, listen, you've been terrific.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how did you do with that company? Tell me a little bit about your tenure with that company.
Oh, it was great. 6.5 years. And I have no bitterness towards them whatsoever. And I'm sure, again, my stories can be rinsed and repeated with a lot of folks. Don't be bitter with former employers, because that's only going to hurt you, not them. They probably forgot about who I was within 20 minutes after it was done, moved on. And no, that wasn't the case. I stay in touch with a lot of them. In fact, I just got off the phone with a former colleague of mine there, because they're good people. It just was one of those, things that happened. Okay. And again, you don't really want to dwell upon it. You want to be positive. Look, I got my goals. I know what I want to be when I grow up, and looking for a job is a whole nother session on this, or several of them. But yeah, you just got to know how to, have to have confidence in yourself that you're going to get through this, the looking for a job during the pandemic, as well as getting through this. If you don't have the faith, you don't have the people behind you to support you, I don't know how people could do this. You look at the suicide.
What is your vocation? What do you do for a living? Are you a sales guy? Are you a consultant?
I'm an IT sales rep. I'm typically I'm a hunter, if you will. It's called somebody to go out and get net new logos, on the Fortune 1000 kind of class accounts. Go in there, and then what we call land and expand, open up the relationship, build the trust, figure out problems that they have, solve a couple of those problems, and then kind of grow it from there, expand into other lines of business and so forth. So really just getting things going within companies, art selling technology, complex technologies to make them, operate better.
So it's a relationship business, huh?
Of course. Yep. I don't, it's kind of an overstatement, and people hate that, but it is. It's a relationship. It's trust. It's honest. It's delivering more than what you promised, doing what you say you're going to do, getting along with people, collaborating. Don't be that smart guy. I know everything. No, you don't know nothing, because, it's changing so fast. But yeah.
Well, that's good. I always tell people that the most important person in a company is a sales guy, just because there's no sales, there's no work. So people think that's, some, people, I guess, not understanding the intricacies of it all, buy low, sell high, hey, listen, that sounds pretty easy. Why isn't selling easy?
Why isn't it easy?
Yeah, why isn't it easy?
Well, my mother, who's a retired college professor, taught nursing for many years at Lewis. She asked me, she still can't figure out what I do. Michael, what do you do all day? Mom, I answer emails and I herd cats all day. What do you sell? I sell change. I sell because right now humans are used to doing, even if they hate what they're doing, okay, the devil you know type of deal. So I'm used to doing it this way. I come in there and I said, man, but there's a much better way to do this. A quick story. Back at your beloved Notre Dame, one of my good customers was this outfit called First Source Bank. And this was years ago. We had a cash counting system, this thing called a PC tied to some machines that would count the physical cash. And then they would do is they would hire mainly retirees to sit in the basement and count cash, including the football receipts from Notre Dame. And back in the day, $1 million was a lot of money in cash. And these poor people would get the carpal tunnel syndrome, counting this money all the time. And then Mikey shows up from Chicago with this fancy computer system, which they had never seen before. And they're like, oh my God. And I'm like, it took about 3 months. Calm down. Look, the only two things you can't do, number one, don't spill coffee on it. And number two, don't lose the money. All right. So after about 3 months, these retirees got pretty good at it. And so the president of the bank come down and see, okay, well, what happened? Did I get my money's worth out of them? And they said, look, I'll work overtime on Saturday as long as I can use this machine, because they got that comfortable with it and they got it. So anyways, but it just takes time. So when I sell the change, you just don't walk in there and say, may I please have $1 million order or a $10 million order? No, you start small, build up the trust, show them that you're there for real, that you're there to help them. And then the other stuff ultimately begins to fall in line.
What type of different stuff have you sold in your career, Michael?
It's always been on IT, but cash counting systems, I did that for a long time, POS, and then ultimately I got into software, SaaS, security, monitoring. That was pretty cool. I got to travel the globe, so sales can be a lot of fun, make a lot of money. And then ultimately I worked for a big computer company out of Austin, selling a wide range of security, SaaS, PCs, data center, cloud, the whole 9 yards. That was awesome.
What does SaaS mean?
Software as a service.
Okay.
It's something that's up and coming. So you want to protect your precious capital expenditure dollars. Look, I can't put forth $1 million for the solution, but I could pay X amount of dollars per month for something like this. And so they offer it to you that way. So it works. Plus, I don't have to worry about building a data center, keeping it up to date, hiring people. No. Joe, you take care of all that for me.
So you get a license from a company to use their product to solve your problems, basically.
They're very, very common, much more so. Microsoft, for example, Office 365, it's all out there in this thing called the cloud. I just pay a monthly fee, and they worry about all that stuff for me. Works out great for things.
Good. So let's go back to a year ago. So all of this goes down. By the way, sorry about your dog.
Yeah. That's been the worst part of it. Unless you're a pet owner, they have no clue what they're talking about. Yep.
Tell me about your dog. Tell me about the life of the dog.
Oh, it's a beautiful little Wheaton Terrier. The damn thing had his little paw wrapped around her. My wife and I, and the kids. Oh, it was great. Take them out for walks. Love the damn cold. I remember it was 22 below zero. We had him outside. After about 45 minutes, you want to come in, fight up? Nah, no, I'm good. And he goes, by the way, is this the worst you got? Come on. So yeah, you know how it is with dogs.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. So, all right. So it's March 18th. The pandemic has hit. It hit us, and so now you're told, "Hey, listen, it's been nice to know you." So then, tell me your response. Tell me how you organize your response.
Well, first thing I tried to do was take a nap. Just to process it all. And, so I laid down for a couple hours, and then I got up and I started writing. My dad was a mechanical engineer, very well organized or whatever. Started to write, okay, I've got about 2.5 weeks left with this gig where I'm at now. I got a lot of critical things I got to close, because at 5:00 on that Friday, that last Friday in March, that door is going to shut. So I got to get all this stuff done before then. So I put there were 3 columns. First column is what do I got to do with that current employer. Second column is what do I got to do to find the next opportunity. List out all this stuff. Just started filling it in, baby. And as time went on, in fact, I'm still adjusting it a year later, putting in things. Third column was personal stuff. What do I got to do with personal. And a lot of this stuff is like, people have been doing like that. I understand a lot of people, their houses never looked this good in 30 years because they're all home and they're working on it. So a lot of that kind of stuff. So first and foremost, I get a lot more comfortable, calms me down if I write things down. Then I don't have to freak out. Then I can organize which is the most important, what I got to do now, which I could put off to the side, the whole 9 yards. So
That's great.
that's the first thing I did.
All right, so you organize your thoughts. So instead of them dancing around your head or up in the clouds, you're a guy that puts it in black and white so that you can look at what you need to do and hopefully move from thought to implementation.
Exactly. And here it is right here. I got it written out. It's called Operation Fresh Start, baby.
I like it.
Well, for the first page here too is what are my goals? What are my objectives? Before you go from on the bike, jumping back to the bike trip, I want to get where am I want to go? I want to get to Portland. When do I want to get there? Before school starts.
Yeah.
How am I going to get there? So I have all my goals listed out in here. I remind me some key things. Hey, look, the world's not coming to an end. I'm going to make this into a sabbatical and the whole 9 yards. And then here is the different columns of the things that I had out there. And the ones in red are the ones that I still had open. And then I'm one of those guys that really get a high, believe it or not. If I get something done, I check the mark off, what I got going. In fact, I already did what I got planned for this weekend, both career-wise, at home, and then personal stuff. So yeah, you gotta be organized in your life.
Wow, that's gosh, I feel so inadequate at this moment, Mike. I'm gonna feel that way a little bit. I got a little more of that coming my way, I bet. All right, so then you basically you didn't neglect the personal, which I think is pretty cool. I think the personal side. What I tell folks a lot of times is that the way I kind of handle things is I kind of need to work inside out. So I have to know who I am and get my fuel in order to move outwards towards things. So, for me, a lot of people understand this is that, I've come to understand that, my faith is kind of a huge thing with me. So I need to get that in order. And so, one of the things I did in this pandemic is a couple of my friends in our parish, our parish closed. I remember it was March 19th, St. Joseph's Day. And it's kind of a big day for my mom. She always celebrated our feast days like they were our birthdays. And so I always got a cake on March 19th, which I thought was a pretty good deal. And side note, my son Johnny has got about 300 feast days. Yesterday was St. John Ogilvy. He just, he'll come from school sometimes and say, "Is it my feast day today, Daddy?" I said, "Hey, you gotta take me to, McDonald's, you take me to Dairy Queen, whatever." I'm like, the kid's going to be, 300 pounds. I mean, so I got to really work on him. But in any event, I think that you need to work that way first. And, so for me, the faith part of it, a couple of people in my parish got together and we said, hey, why don't we get together on Zoom and we can pray together on Zoom and pray the rosary together. So we started that April 22nd and we started at 6 o'clock in the morning. And there's a group of us that about, 20, 25 of us. So there's 15 this morning that showed up. So we've been doing it about 11 months now. And I'm so surprised that it's been going on. But it's a great way for us to start our day, just to kind of, and starting it with gratitude. So being thankful for everything that we have. I mean, listen, you and I are born in a very first world area. We have all these great things. We have our ancestors dug these huge wells for us to drink the water from, and all these great things. And being from a big family like yourself, we were grateful. We had great parents that were open to life and brought us here. And then we have all these siblings and all these friends, etc. So starting with gratitude right at the beginning of the day, I think is a huge thing. So sounds like you did the same type of thing.
Yeah, you go. Well, first off, jumping back to what you had said about take care of the yourself first, or you got to start internally, I guess. There's the old story about the man who was on an evening trying to read his paper, and his little boy kept bothering him and say, "Daddy, play with me," or whatever. So he goes, "Okay." So he took an ad that had a picture of the globe on there, and he ripped it up and he says, "Okay, put this together." And then, he thought, "Okay, great. I'll get a few minutes and whatever." And the kid was done like that. And he goes, "Son, how did you do that so quick?" He says, "Well, Dad, on the other side was a picture of a man. When I put the man together first, the world came together and automatically." So, yeah. So yeah, you can, in order to give, you got to first be ready to handle something like that. So yeah, if you're going to be a negative Nelly, grouchy, look, this thing hit everybody hard. I get it. But you got to take care of yourself, and then from there, in a good way, and then from there you could go ahead and give. By the way, one of the best ways to take care of yourself is giving. I was fortunate early on that they reopened up the food pantry. In fact, I was there last night. Unfortunately, business is booming, but by giving, you receive so much more. I miss helping out the folks over at the Hesed House in Aurora, if you know them. But yeah, you want to go and see the people that have hit rock bottom. That these people are living in a converted garbage incinerator. Quick story: a guy out there, he was Secret Service guy. One of the clients out there. He went from having Bill Clinton making him a sandwich in the middle of the night in the kitchen to sleeping in a homeless shelter. Dude, what happened? Well, what happened was he got injured on a job, got addicted to the painkillers, lost the job, lost the marriage, lost the house, all within a year. So that could happen to you or I, pal, really quick. So yeah, that's one of the key things that I've always learned, especially now in the pandemic. When I talk with these different clients, I don't know what their story is, but they got a good story. They have a reason why they're at, and treat them with kindness. If nothing else, you could be in that position. Because right now, when I network looking for a new job, it's astonishing. 80 to 85% of the people reach back, and they know darn well, and they've been very helpful, during this rough time for me and a lot of other people, and they know darn well they could be in that position in a heartbeat. But they're really, again, very giving and so forth. So yeah, be grateful, because you don't know tomorrow what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah. And I'm a big believer. Of course, my mom drilled this into me, as well as all my my schooling that I went to, the nuns that taught me in grade school, and then that everything that I have is a gift. I mean, and that's kind of the mindset, I think, is to start with, is that, again, gratitude, everything's a gift. And then but as St. Peter always said, to those that much has been given, much is expected. Yep. So if you're sitting back accepting your gifts and sitting back doing nothing, that's not really the great move. But even, I want to kind of hear your story. It's March 18th. You've created your list.
Yep.
Give me some stats. Give me some stats of the last year. I just got a taste of this in our earlier conversation, but I wanted to find out some stats from you about how some things have gone personally for you.
Oh man, wow! You must be in statistics, pal. All right, so you ready?
Yeah.
All right, since and I got them right in front of me here. So since 7:35 on the 18th of March, 2020, I've interviewed now with 48 different companies. I've had 141 individual interviews. All right, I've engaged with 24 recruiters. At my former employer, I've connected with 83 out of 99 people. Outside of that former employer, 98 out of 117 contacts. So about 182 people, 500 plus phone conversations and other stuff. That resulted in 6 verbal job offers that all had to be rescinded because of COVID. Okay. I've had about 3 written job offers that just weren't good fits, that they were mainly, taking advantage of me. I've come in second place probably at least 7 or 8 times. So with all that going on, I've walked 3,384.6 miles from March 1st to February 28th, last year into this year. I've swam 130 plus miles. I've lost 22 pounds, but my favorite stat, sir, is I've visited 123 microbrews so far and counting.
So you've walked basically across the United States.
And somewhat, yeah, from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon. Yep.
And so what's that average a day?
Well, it was like I know like the highest was 13.6 miles per day, every day for the 31 days of December. And then in February, because of everything going on, 2.5. But it comes out to, actually, I have it here too. That came out to 9.27 miles per day, roughly. And that's just based upon carrying a stupid little iPhone. So it's probably more than that, but that gives you a rough idea.
Wow. And then, so um, when you're walking like that, what are you doing? What are you thinking about?
Great question. I have, and I'm sure you guys got this. I have over a week's worth of music on here. With the network has gotten so good, I have access to thousands of podcasts. You know what I listen to for the most part, Joe? I listen to the birds. I listen to nothing. I just, because of the pandemic, because it slammed everybody, and I can't, I can handle a lot my own. I can't handle all the people suffering, whatever. I don't listen to anything. And it's great, especially if you can get out of the city. And a lot of this stuff is now being validated by a lot of different articles. They talk about, look, turn off the darn Zoom. Sorry, Joe, gotta go. Turn off the Zoom, but get your butt not just out there, but get it out in nature. They don't know exactly why, but being out in nature. I know you like to go running over and take the dog out to Green Valley and stuff like that. Do it. Do it. Even
Yeah.
like when I get done after a hard, crazy day, I think I mentioned with you, I've had like 13 or 14 interviews with it a week, man. But by the end of the day, you're literally like this. I go running out or just walk. I don't run. I just go out for a walk in the local woods here. And it's amazing. Within a half an hour, 20 minutes, even, boy, you're just back. And you got to process all this stuff. Human minds, dude, we're very complex. You've got to get good sleep, right? And now they don't know why we need humans and animals as a whole need sleep, but it's very important. It processes all this stuff. So yeah. So again, going back to taking care of yourself.
Well, I mean, if you're walking about 10 miles a day, sleep should come pretty easy to you at night, shouldn't it?
It should, but sometimes it hasn't. I don't know about you or other people, but since the pandemic hit, man, they're not necessarily nightmares, but I have the dark dreams, just, again, the human mind's very complex as you process everything that's going on. And of course, I pay attention to the news, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Chicago Tribune, but some of all the dark, crazy stuff going on, the riots here in Chicago, the storming of the Capitol, I glance at that, and then at night, your brain processes it, and so yeah. But yeah, sometimes sleeping is good, sometimes not so good.
Really? So, yeah, one of the things that you said was the micro brew, which I thought was a pretty good 133, you said?
123.
123. So give us some examples of some pretty good microbreweries that you went to. I know it's hard. I know it's hard.
No, not hard. It's like, okay, Joe, you tell me what's some of your favorite restaurants in town, especially like in the western suburbs. I mean, geez, I need Argentinian food. Okay, you want northern or southern Argentinian food? I mean, yeah, there's just a lot of great people out there, but it's not just the beer itself, and that's a whole nother podcast, but the people. And again, it's very safe because you're outside or whatever. I could give you an example. Misatonic Brewery in Darien. I'm outside, just by myself, got a little heater there. Of course, it's been a little chilly lately, and enjoying it. And I heard these guys in the picnic table, a couple down, and he goes, "Oh yeah, my doctoral thesis." And I finally said, "Look, I don't want to bother you guys. Well, who are you?" Well, we're all nuclear scientists from Argonne Labs. And just then the space station comes flying over, and then they started talking about so you can have great conversations that way. So again, a lot of that human connection, because one of the key things. And I know we were talking about how people can get isolated in this, particularly the teenagers. Get your butt out there and still get that human. I know, Zoom, great. I tell you what, in technology, what we did the first time we got a new laptop, pal, out came the duct tape right over that camera. We're not a big fan of this stuff, but now we got to use it, and it's not going away anytime soon. Get out there and safely engage with other humans. We're designed that way. I'm sorry.
No, I get it. I totally believe that. When they first closed the churches for 2,000 years, that drove me absolutely crazy, and I'm still kind of disappointed, I guess you'd say, that they would do that. But that's for another day as well. So let's talk. I want to talk to you about so you're looking for that perfect job. I know that's not
Yeah.
out there. I mean, it's not, but there's a job that fits with you. Tell me what your difference. I mean, what's the difference maker for you that you can provide an IT company as opposed to other people?
Well, the key thing is my ability to develop strong, trusting, long-term relationships. That trust, opening that door. The hunter. Okay, and you're right. I'm slightly biased, but no new net logos. Guess what? After a while, no company, because customers through attrition just leave or whatever. But getting in there and getting that conversation started first and foremost, and then bringing in my people, my folks, my team, and then kind of figure out where we can help you. Start small typically, and then kind of grow it from there.
Okay, and you have a track record of doing that?
Absolutely, over the last 38 years. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And so, do you enjoy what you do?
Oh, absolutely. It's a lot of fun. Some days a lot more fun than others. Don't get me wrong. When you put in a lot of work and they decide to go a different route, or what's worse is they decide not to decide and left you in limbo. But for the most part, oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I have literally traveled from. I think the furthest east I've gone is Helsinki. Furthest south is Colombia, South America, and the furthest west or east, whatever, would be Melbourne, Australia, and all points north and south in between. And I've met a lot of cool people. I've seen a lot of fascinating things, and yeah, the pay hasn't been bad either.
Well, good for you. And then, so one of the things that I think is, it's nothing new, but folks over 45, they're really, really good at what they do, almost too good. And companies get greedy, and say a guy is making, basically just on commissions, high commissions, and making, three, 400, $500,000 a year, and they see all the great success, but then they start thinking, oh, a 22-year-old could do that. I only have to pay him 50 or 60. How do you respond to that?
Hire them. Look, I can't. There's two. What I've seen, at least, I can't speak for all industries, but I know in IT there's two different flavors. Basically, you get the 20, 30 somethings, either just out of college or green behind the ears, and absolutely you could bring them in. Got a lot of energy, got a lot of positive traits, very energetic, coming up with new ideas. Typically they're hard workers, and so forth. And then you've got the seasoned veterans like me. What little hair I have left is great or whatever, but I got decades of proven wisdom, of knowledge, of things that work, and almost more importantly, the things that don't work. Kids don't try this. So it worked out great in my previous employer. We had a nice mix of both, and we would cross-pollinate each other and help each other out. And so that's the way it is. But again, unfortunately, as in jumping back for a second, the Wall Street Journal had a job summit last week, kicked off by Jerome Powell, chairman of the Fed, and then they had a lot of good breakout sessions. And believe it or not, this thing called ageism came up big time. For not only for myself, people older, but also the other extreme when I first started. Mike, we only hire people with experience. Well, how can I get experience if you don't hire me? Good luck. I'm like, oh, the old catch-22. So yeah, ageism is definitely out there, and that's another whole session. But yeah, you can absolutely address that head on. And if they don't want to hire you, Joe, you don't want to work for them.
No, right. So say I'm big company IT guy, and I want to grow my market. I mean, listen, I'm a capitalist. I want to dominate the market, and so I'm paying you $500K, and you're kicking ass. Okay, you are opening up new markets. You're going to these companies. You're knocking on doors that I never would have dreamed of knocking on, and you're opening the door. And but I like paying 80 grand. I don't like paying 500 grand. Why should I keep you?
Well, that's great question. In part of the things I've seen with not many, but some colleagues, once they hit this, they hit what's called the cruise control. And jumping back to my bicycle, the only time I ever cruised was going down the hill, down a mountain. And if you're not careful, you're going to go off the mountain, and then that's not going to end well for anybody. So yeah, first off, whether you're in sales or anything, you want to make sure that you document all your successes and keep the metrics, the dollar amounts, how much you've made the company and or how much you saved the company. Do that once a quarter. So you keep track of all that to justify your existence. So that's first and foremost, do all that. Make sure you stay in contact with the superiors on a regular basis, not just an annual review or quarterly review or whatever. Hey, look at all the cool things I'm doing. Again, does it need to be a big, long doctoral thesis? No, short, sweet, couple bullet points and so forth. And then, Joe, at the end of the day, if they want to get rid of you, like in my case, I understand my main was on a list in January. Some big outside consulting firm came in and just looked at the numbers, and there was no way that my boss or his boss's boss, it was out of their control. They're going to put a bullet in you, and they're just like, okay, then you move on. I don't like it. Don't get me wrong. I think it was dumb. A lot of people thought it was dumb, but they're not the ones who make the decisions. And the one door opens and then the door opens, or one door closes and the door opens.
I guess as a trial lawyer, making my case.
Yeah.
It would seem to me, so the way that I look at companies and employees of companies is that as the employee, they got to need you more than you need them, right? That's kind of always the route I tell folks is, I say, listen, always be that person that they need you more than you need them. Because you can always go out and get something else and do, start your own thing. I mean, this is America. You start your own company if you want to and run it the way you want to run it. But in your situation, if I'm big tech company and I got you still knocking on doors and you're still, doing a great job, why wouldn't I want you around to educate all the young guys to do the same thing? To me, it's more like I like addition by addition. I don't like subtracting the it's like, to me, it's like getting rid of Michael Jordan and thinking that all these rookies are going to win. It just doesn't work.
Joe, you kind of answered your own question. Now I walked 3,384.4 miles. I don't know, Joe. I don't know the answer to that. I know that for every dollar they spent on me, either through salary or benefits, commission, whatever, I returned at least 2 to 3 on average over the last 6.5 years. But again, I'm not that smart, I guess. And you could just take my story and rinse and repeat that. Is there biases? Is there ageism? Of course, there's out there.
Sure. Let's move on beyond that, though. We've tackled that. We've tackled it. We a lot of people don't even talk about it. I wanted to talk about that. So now that's out. I mean, it's out in the open. The elephant's there. The ageism. Okay, fine. Okay, great. People are living a lot longer, and they're productive a lot longer. And so I think we got to figure out as an economy how to use everybody the proper way. So tell me, for you, what's the dream situation right now?
Well, the dream, it's a great question. I mean, and everyone has to ask themselves that question, and only you can answer it. You look in the mirror. What do I want to be when I grow up? Interesting, Joe, we had a alumni gathering. It'll be a year ago last Christmas, Zoo on Lights there for Lincoln Park. And there were a couple of young 20-somethings, and one of them was really bummed out. And I go, hey, what's going on? And he goes, I don't know. I hate my job. Okay. And I asked him, I says, all right, well, what do you want? Do you have any advice for me, bro? And I go, okay, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. And I said, I can't help you. What? I cannot help you until you can tell me what you want to do. So that's first and foremost. You have to figure that out first. And then from there, but right now, Joe, I want to go back to what I was doing. Dude, I was having so much fun. I can't tell you how many sporting events, how many concerts, all the traveling and all that other stuff. So I know what I want to do. And I know what I want to do for at least the next 5 years. And along those lines, when that time finally hangs up, then now I can start giving back. In fact, I give back regardless, helping out the food pantry. But a lot of the career people, they reach out to me. Hey, Mike, you got a lot of experience doing this. Can you help me out? Of course I can help you out. So yeah. So you got to know what you're going to do this morning, and then where you're going to be 5 years from now and so forth. So I always like the question, look, Joe, if we run into each other 5 years from now, what exciting things are you going to tell me that you've done both in your career and in your personal life? Right.
No, I agree with you. Yeah. So for me, I I sat down and asked that question. I had two kids that under 2 years old. We had Claire, my daughter Claire was just born. And I decided that I was going to open up my own law firm, plaintiff's law firm. I was a defense attorney. I represented big companies, insurance companies, that type of thing. But I had in my mind I was going to do my own thing. And so we did it. And I remember it was pretty tough sledding for the first couple of years. And but I wanted to control my own destiny. I didn't want to be in a situation where I guess it was kind of the same type of thing I had in sports. I played team sports for a long time. Basketball, I love basketball. I was going to be in the NBA, by the way, Mike. I was all set. I was going to be, just the next, Oscar Robertson. Other than the fact that I couldn't jump as high, shoot as well, rebound as well, or pass as well. Yeah, and I just wasn't good. I mean, those are all were just kind of things that were kind of hurdles that I didn't really want to jump. But anyway, so I got into running, and then I learned more of a hey, it's all on you type of thing. And if you don't win the race, you can't blame anybody else. And there's no coaching decision to sit on the bench. I had a lot of that my freshman, sophomore year in high school. I would just be bummed. I go, why didn't you put me in, coach? You know how good I am? Obviously, he knew how good I was, but watching me practice all the time and jacking threes and, basically not passing and being a selfish player. But in my mind, I was the next guy. So that's the kind of that's that kind of question you ask yourself. What do you want to be? I kind of figured that out. But the number one thing that was driver for me was I wanted to have a good family life. I wanted to, have that family time. And if I own my own company, I know at first it's like all time consuming. First 5 years, it's like building something, because you're going to find out whether your company survives or not within the first 5 years. After 5 years, if you get a reputation and you become good at what you do, then you should be okay. I mean, you've always got to rebuild. You got to get better and better and better, obviously, all the time, like you talked about. But I wanted to have that family life that I could control. And so 6 kids later, that's one thing that my wife always wants us home for dinner because now there's a smaller group around the dinner table. There's only 4 of us typically, unless my daughter Emma comes home. But we have 4 of us around the dinner table, and every night we're figuring things out. But that's what I wanted to be, and I think my career matched up. But so what? Tell me what's going on next. So it's early March here. What's going to happen in 2021, buddy?
Well, I'm cautiously optimistic based upon what the president talked about last night. All right, that was extremely promising. Getting going back to Powell, the Fed chairman, we got to knock this pandemic down. And I got my first poke a couple of weeks ago, get my second in a couple of weeks because I help out at the food pantry. You can rinse and repeat that with a lot. They say right now, approximately a third of the Americans have either had the vaccine or had the virus itself. So that so-called herd immunity is definitely getting up there. So the economy, I think, is rocking and rolling. Cautiously optimistic that within springtime, by summer, I'm going to land, the good job. And then we'll finally can get back out there. Cubs, Sox, you can, start getting those tickets. I think, look out. I think the restaurants, the concerts, all that other stuff's going to open up. And the people are just going to come flooding out. It's like Chicago after a long winter, which we've had, a long winter on steroids. So, yeah, we're very cautiously optimistic. I'm going to keep, taking the lessons I learned from this pandemic and moving forward. Staying in touch, never treat every day, treat every day like it's precious and short. Like you said, it's a gift. Every single day. There's no guarantee that you're going to be here by 5 o'clock. Make sure you cherish your loved ones. You don't know. So tomorrow could be could be it, or whatever. And just have faith that this too shall pass. Again, was this something the pandemic we wanted? No. But we got through it. And then we're gonna be all right. We're gonna be all right.
Good. How about you gonna get another dog?
Yeah, I think so. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think I gotta get another job, pal. I'm driving my wife nuts. I've been hanging out in the basement here like forever, and I got too much more stuff I want to do. I don't know if you could see right here. That's my Game 7 World Series ticket with the Cubs. So my wife and I, we call it Cleveland money. So the next time something that comes up, I want to have Cleveland money that I could spend, to buy the most expensive ticket I ever bought. It, by the way, I want to be able to do that. My parents, when they finally got rid of all those stupid, there were like 12 kids, went and traveled the globe. They visited all 7 continents, including on a Russian trawler back in the mid '80s to Antarctica.
Really?
I mean, that's what I want to do.
That sounds good. No, I asked you, didn't ask you whether you get a job. I'm going to ask whether you get another dog.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Another dog. No. I'm going to do like my older sister up in Minnesota. I'm going to go volunteer at a local shelter and get the benefit of it without, no. We have our pet squirrels and we have our pet gerbil, though. Unfortunately, a fox yesterday came and ate one of my wife's favorite gerbil, but that's another story.
Great. Well, listen, my best thoughts go out to you and Diane and the kids. And just to close it, Mike talked about, helping out and reaching out to people. He's a very humble guy. I get a lot of calls from people or I just find out that they've lost their job or looking for a new job. And one of my first calls is to one of my role models, Mike Slowik, because he's got such a great, framework of how to handle these things. And, he's had, really unbelievably great jobs, where he's done really, really well. And it's fun to watch. I mean, I have another client of mine who was a CEO of a couple of publicly traded companies. And he'd call me every now and then saying that he got let go. And I'd say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I feel, and he'd be so happy. He'd be like, are you kidding me? This is the best ever. I've got the severance. I've already got 3 calls for a new job. It's all, and the way people handle things is so different compared to who you talk to and how they're raised and their upbringing and, all these other things. So a guy that can get on a bike and ride his bike to college 2,000 miles away is absolutely crazy. That's crazy upbringing for how to deal with the resilience. So listen, I've really enjoyed our time today, Michael. I hope, we're going to do some more in the future because we're going to have some fun through this. And a couple reasons. Number one, I think it's going to be helpful for people to see how to respond to, these ups and downs. But number two, I think it's going to be good for, your grandkids we've got this, recorded. So hopefully they'll be able to dig this up someday and say, hey, that's my granddaddy.
Yeah. Do it. I don't know if it could be, like I said, my dad's a mechanical engineer. I wrote down lessons of the pandemic, 2 pages so far. And I want to make sure that the emphasis got that and so forth. So I'm going to leave you with this. You mentioned the 5 years and you mentioned microbrews. Go over to Green Bush Microbrew in Sawyer, Michigan. They have a beer called 1826. I don't know if you're familiar with Michigan, especially Southwest. A lot of history there, first the Spanish and so forth. They go, okay, well, what happened in this area in 1826? It goes, that's got nothing to do with, the year. It's got to do, that's 1,826 days. We survived 5 years as a business. And we know at that point, we're going to make it. So they brewed a special beer. So there you go, Joe.
I like it. Well, listen, thanks, Michael. And will you join us again someday?
Of course.
That sounds good.
Let's do it in a microbrew next time.
No, we're going to do a microbrew or we're going to do it in person, hopefully soon.
Hey, you got it. All right. Take care, Joe.
All right, buddy. Take care. I hope you enjoyed our talk today with Mike Slowik. We're going to try and do more of those where we find folks that are extraordinary in handling these extraordinary times. I hope that you've enjoyed it, and I know I did. And I look forward to our next podcast, and we'll see you around. Thank you for listening to The Opening Statement with Joe Shannon. You can find us on the internet at shannonlawgroup.com or telephone our office at 312-578-9501. Have a terrific day.